A warning to all those who listen to this particular episode. This podcast will have controversial topics in it that some people might not like. And to be upfront with it, it is political. So if you don't want to get angry, turn away now. I will also not let anyone in the comments be picked on or belittled, particularly by one side. Yes, I am playing favorites because I can. The Mysterians, made in 1957. The original film is flawed, but very historically important. It just turned 60 years old. I reviewed this with Super DM64 on Ishiro Honda-thon. You can go check that out if you want my full thoughts on that film. But there are many things within the movie itself that could have led to something really cool. It's like most sci-fi films made in the 1950s and 60s. It has cool ideas, but it just failed to flesh them out. Of course, there are a lot of examples to disprove what I just said, but again, nothing is really black and white here. One thing I love about sci-fi is its ability to speak about certain subjects without actually being able to speak about them. Planet of the Apes, Star Trek, Twilight Zone, it's become a recent theme, talking about allegories and stuff like that throughout my channel, be me for them or against them. I'm not really flip-flopping, I'm just making notes. You can basically hide controversial topics behind the guise of a fantastic universe. It's been done even before Metropolis by Fritz Lang. Sci-fi is just beautiful for that sort of work. It's one reason why it's my favorite genre as a whole. I'm not saying this was done on purpose by Takashi Kimura or Ishiro Honda in The Mysterians, but it's nonetheless a part of the film. And I mean this literally. What I'm about to say is within the film itself. It's about aliens seeking to mate with our women to help repopulate their species, which had been rendered sterile and infertile because of how they've destroyed their own planet. This, of course, was made in the time when nuclear war was extremely prominent on everyone's mind, and the threat of nuclear annihilation was probably never higher, even in the 1980s. It made a lot of sense. And it is something that Honda and his writers tackle time and time again in their science fiction films. The H-Man, the original Godzilla, Mothra, even Rodan had little tiny traces of it. His films constantly had that element in it, to the point that it actually became kind of a cliche for Ishiro Honda. So basically, the aliens arrive, do some terrible stuff, aka Mogera, the giant clunky robot, and then ask politely for a small bit of land to establish their base, which has secretly already been built. It also features a character seduced by their science and culture who winds up discovering just how evil the Mysterians really are. The heroes of the film must find a way to stop these aliens, and Japan ultimately takes a stance to stop them, attracting people from other nations to help. This is unlike Battle in Outer Space, where it blatantly shows the people of the world all working together, which Battle in Outer Space has its problems. I look at it very similarly to the Mysterians. But yeah, that film, for example, has sequences where Soviets and the Americans are working together to stop a common threat, and that is the Natal aliens. The Mysterians is treated far more like this is a Japanese problem. It's nowhere near as global as Battle in Outer Space. It's mainly the Japanese people who make the machines and fire the weapons against, again, in great contrast to Battle in Outer Space. This film, and the reason why I make that comparison is because The Mysterians is most like Battle in Outer Space. It's a space opera. It's a science fiction space opera. And by the way, a lot of these elements within the Mysterians would be copied over in films like Invasion of the Astro Monster and so on and so forth, even Destroy All Monsters. I'll bet some people see where I'm going with this. Lately, there has been a huge debate over the importance of nationalism versus globalism, and I've not hid my views on it. And I'm sure for those who don't know will understand my leanings by the end of this. The kaiju tokusatsu genre has even tackled this debate recently with Shin Godzilla, and in an extremely clever manner. And it too has been debated, and it was both hailed and hated. We are also seeing a huge problem with immigrants. It's being debated. In the US, it's Hispanics, while in Europe, it's the Syrian refugees. We are seeing nations in Europe, like Germany, Poland, and Greece in particular, trying to take massive stances against this influx of refugees despite the whims of the government, particularly Angela Merkel and Germany. where it is projected that in 10 years over 50% of the German population won't be German anymore. And we are seeing massive clashes against people who are considered nationalists and globalists, the left versus the right. Those who say keep the borders tight, and those who want them open. We have also seen a huge rise in terror attacks around the world being carried out primarily by people coming from the region of Syria, who openly detest Western civilization and have been warped by the ideas of radical Islam. Yes, I said it. Rape has risen. Religious murders are all but legal in Europe. The list goes on, and it's not my place to really go into here. But for the purpose of this video, this is what is important. I say now more than ever would be a great time for the Mysterians to be remade. Sure, what I'm saying would fly in the face of Ishiro Honda and Takashi Kimura, who were both very leftist-leaning people, one being an open communist, and the other one being a pacifist, but I never hid the fact that I disagreed with them before. And I will not, despite how much I love both of their work. You can approach this one of two ways. America Hispanics, Europe and Syrian refugees. This would work better for Europe than anything else, but the ramifications can still be felt here in the United States as well. Have the Mysterians as a race be a stand-in for illegal immigration, or the Syrian refugees. They wish to come here, blow a few things up like a terror attack, then play nice, people appearing on television or in front of the UN, crying about their shithole country, yes, I said shithole, and ask for a spot to set up shops. Safe haven, sanctuary states, only for us to discover they're not only been here already, but have a lot more people than expected. Refugee camps overcrowding and overflowing. I can't help but think this would make an interesting film, and also be something sci-fi excels at that we have not seen in a while. Actually, allegory or thematic significance and not just spectacle. We have seen plenty of spectacle, but I mean like truly deep, thought-provoking science fiction. I'm talking like films like Soylent Green, stuff from the early 1970s, the pessimistic stuff. You can have the man who is seduced by the Mysterians be one of those people in awe by their culture and call them for the open borders. And by the end, he and or she discovers just how ugly things really are. We could have the woman abducted by the Mysterians for breeding, not kidding, that happens in the film, be stand-ins for the rape victims, morbid, but a lot of allegorical works are. Look at Sallow, 120 Days of Sodomy. We could even tackle the idea of military power, with countries like Japan wanting to rearm itself with the threats of North Korea and China just off their borders. This being a topic discussed in Shin Godzilla, be it instead of Europe or America worried about the ramifications of becoming a military-industrial complex all over again. And the one thing that needs to be key in the film is not to be black and white. Because if you have something black and white about it, you get something like Avatar, directed by James Cameron. The key here is to paint a beautiful shade of gray, and that's actually the stance that I normally take. Certainly I lean more towards one side than the other, if that hasn't been clear so far. But let's face it, it's not black and white, as a lot of politicians would like to have us think. It's a very ugly topic, a very gray topic, with pros and cons on both sides. This is such a huge mistake made by myself and others constantly. In Which Way They Walk, I made it way too black and white, for example, to state one of my works. Bring up the ramifications of this topic in the Mysterians, this remake. The ideas of Germany becoming warlike again, similar to Nazi Germany, or the fears of being anti-Mysterian would be something similar to their anti-Islamic stance or their past anti-Semitism. Bring up the idea that the U.S. is made up by immigrants coming to the New World looking to escape the horrors of Europe or religious persecution, and that is exactly something that the Mysterians genuinely want. Don't just ignore that both sides have their pros and cons. Embrace them and bring them up. And then bring it all to a head in the final act of this remake with a climactic battle between Earth and the Mysterians. The dome is a must. You can have huge political debates within the film replacing the refugees / illegal immigrants with the Mysterians themselves. The possibilities playing with something like this, one way or the other, is almost endless because of the times we live in. It's such a fantastic time to be a writer or someone creative. There is just so much we can play with, and that honestly makes me excited to work. This certainly would not be an exact remake of the Mysterians for sure, nor should it be. Perhaps this change would be so significant, the one that I'm proposing, you might as well make a totally new film and call it something else. I don't know. But my recent reviewing of the Mysterians, again made in 1957, directed by Ishiro Honda, just made me think about this a lot. And why not? Sci-fi is supposed to challenge what is considered the norm. Honda did this with Godzilla, and countless others have done something similar. Let's bring that kind of sci-fi back. The Mysterians just brought this idea into my head and made me realize that now would be a great time for it to be remade, for it to be reimagined. Or just a film to be made tackling the topic, and that's not Angry Birds. Sorry for triggering you. Not really. In the end, this is Adam Noyce of Van Productions saying sayonara.